Hey everyone, this is Tinka welcoming you to yet another Marvel Strike Force War Wednesday. Today's war, we're going up against Omega Strike Force, and as you can see, we jump right into battle against a Young Avengers. Now, I've seen a ton of Young Avengers ever since the second Scourge event with Rogue came about, because it was a great reason to get Young Avengers up and going, especially since Young Avengers was actually the best team to take on nodes 5 and 10. So, if you haven't planned for Rogue the next time around, this is the team you want to rank up. Meanwhile, that means you have to figure out how the heck to knock it out, and I want to try and take this one out with X Factor and Silver Surfer. I've heard X Factor and Zemo, that's a pretty good win rate for a couple of my alliance mates. I have had very little success using that team. I'm better off for some reason with Silver Surfer. Maybe it's because of the strategy I employ. So there's a couple of things that you need to watch out for. First of all, you want to get an ability block on Squirrel Girl immediately, because if she's allowed to continually use her special, which will do a bunch of cleansing and healing, it's going to get in the way. And that's really problem number one. Problem number two is Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel is annoying because she taunts automatically when any of her Young Avenger allies drops below 50% health. So the other thing that you can do with Silver Surfer as opposed to Zemo is Silver Surfer's special has the ability to throw down a Disrupt on the primary target, and of course Polaris has the ability to throw out Disrupted as well, which is very important. So keep Miss Marvel disrupted and try your best to knock out Squirrel Girl. The other one that needs to really go quickly is Echo. If she's allowed to remain around for a very long time, she has that really annoying passive which will attack your allies whenever they attack any of her allies. So she's got that retaliation strike, and it happens pretty much automatically. So if there's a huge Echo in the mix, you're going to get knocked down very quickly. Now what X Factor has the ability to do is throw up defense ups, and has the ability to speed up on crit. Multiple Man will throw out a bunch of taunting dupes so that they can take a lot of the one-off damage hits as long as they're the basics when the taunt is on, so that's a very helpful thing. But really, I would focus on, and I try to focus on Squirrel Girl a lot of the time to start, and then move to either Miss Marvel or Echo. And one more thing to note about this battle with Silver Surfer, he does have the ability to use his basic and cleanse. I call it a cleanse, but really, he will just transport all of his negative effects to the other team. And with Blind, which happens to Silver Surfer often in this battle, he can at least kick the blind over to someone on the other team, and if you can get that on Echo, that is fantastic. Alright, we're on to attack number 2, and this one's going to be a 500k Sinister 6 with Dr. Octopus. So for me, this is almost automatically an X-Men lock. I will say, lately I've been trying to use other teams, and I found some success with Web Warriors, so it looks like another good counter, but if you don't have any reason to hold your X-Men back for something else, use them here. They are autoable, and that's what you'll be watching here, is the computer beat the computer on auto. Alright, we're on to attack number 3, and this one is just a band of misfits with Captain Marvel, Minerva, Silver Surfer, Kitty Pryde, and Deathpool. Now, this is 831k, so I think that's why they put them together, but there's almost no concept for synergy here. Deathpool, of course, will be an automatic counter for anybody who summons, so don't bring in a summoner here. Otherwise, you really don't have a whole lot to be concerned about. I circle with my mouse the Silver Surfer, and what I'm trying to impart with that circle is that I'm going to wait until the end to kill him off. As much as Silver Surfer is a good piece of a puzzle to beat Black Order, he alone cannot defeat Black Order. And as far as I'm concerned, there's no synergy with the other 4 toons and him here. So there's really no reason not to take in my Black Order. Leave him for last, focus Minerva down, and then kind of clean up as you go. Now, a couple things with this defensive team. Captain Marvel has the ability to kind of cleanse herself and heal slightly. Minerva is a reviver. And of course Silver Surfer, as long as he doesn't have a heal block, will heal on every toon's turn. So there are a few things to watch out for. Kitty Pryde honestly doesn't make any sense to me here at all. She serves no technical purpose whatsoever. And I was really contemplating what I would take in for about 10 seconds, and then I thought, Black Order, because I will have one thing that they won't have, and that's an empowered Thanos. So again, focus down on Minerva, and then I would clean up whomever you can from there, if that means you go for Captain Marvel, or if that means you go for Deathpool, whatever it may be. Just make sure to not allow them to do a lot of damage early on and take out either an Ebony Maw or your Thanos before they can get to their ultimates. Do that, and you've got a pretty easy win, albeit this one does take a little while. Alright, next up we've got a Heroes for Hire. Now, a couple of War Wednesdays ago, I made a suggestion on who to attack with Omega's special. I was kicking around either Shang-Chi or Luke Cage, or even potentially Misty Knight, and the reason behind them was I wanted to get an ability block on the most effective person to ability block. I have come to the conclusion that that is most definitely Shang-Chi, and this proves it. The Shang-Chi in this battle is 235k. I managed to land a Traumed ability block and heal block on him, and the cleanup is almost instantaneous for the rest of the team. So my final recommendation is always target Shang-Chi with Omega's opening special. Alright, so we've got here a 459k Brotherhood 2.0, and I'm slowly trying to get my A-Force team up and going, so I decided to pull out my Ultimus Kree team and remove Captain Marvel and Ronan. And the reason for that is I want Captain Marvel for A-Force in case I need him later, and I also need to make room for some other tunes that I want in this team. I decided to take Ultron because he's got the ability to add longevity and some serious punch, and quite frankly, once we get through the opening blinds, Ultron could probably take this Brotherhood team on his own. Ultimus does have the ability to punch through a tank, and I've got 2 tanks with tons of positive effects, so hopefully I can use that to my advantage. And I'm bringing in Rhino in the center for his passive/special, both of which, when Rhino gets a blind, will remove a negative effect from everyone. So hopefully I can remove all the blinding before it becomes an issue, and from there on it's just about the punch. Alright, so as if on cue, the next takeout that I go for is a Wakandan 619k team, and I decided to use A-Force. Thing about A-Force is I didn't expect to be this good this fast. I really truly appreciate what A-Force was able to do here. And one of the advantages of A-Force is while they do have a very synergistic team, they don't have a 5th yet. So I am using Drax as my 5th in an attempt to take as much damage early on from opening turns from Wakandans as possible. And of course Drax dies pretty quickly. So now I'm on my own, and Spider-Woman gets dropped into red pretty quickly. There's no natural healer on this team. The nice part for me is I do have Jessica Jones as a healer, so there's that passive heal mechanic. So that was to help slightly, but didn't really know what to expect. So I took a long time looking at Nico's ultimate ability and noticed 2 things. 1, trauma, and 2, disrupted on everybody. And that makes a massive difference, especially since I had to get around and go through the Shuri. At least that was my goal, was to get around and go through Shuri. And the disrupted lands on M'Baku, so I don't have to worry about him taunting at all. Then Shuri gets ability blocked as well relatively quickly, and of course that's traumatized, so that's not going anywhere, which means her heal mechanic is almost worthless, because even though she can cleanse, the trauma gets rid of the cleanse, it just counteracts it, so that's great. So then it's just a matter of kind of focusing down and punching down Shuri, and I spent a very, very long time doing this because I was afraid of her heal. Once she's gone, suddenly I am faced with a very charged Okoye and charged Black Panther. But both of them are in the red, and somehow A-Force has managed to stick around. Now, you do see me hold my mouse on the abilities for Nico so that I can read the text. You see that also on Spider-Woman, so I can read the text. and that's so I can get an idea of what I'm trying to do here. That said, this attack worked out very, very well, and once I managed to knock out both Okoye and Black Panther, it's down to a Killmonger and an M'Baku, and Killmonger does the damage. But at that point, I could have put this on auto and finished it out, and focused down on Killmonger, because M'Baku isn't really all that scary on his own. I've really survived the gauntlet here, and I am definitely impressed with A-Force. Very excited to see what they can do coming up. So, next up I'm faced with another Heroes for Hire, and it's 720k, and I decide to take out my Infinity Watch in hopes that I could beat it. To be fair, at this point I was pretty certain I couldn't. But the reason I went this route is because we're getting very late in the war. We needed to drop the barracks in order to take some of the other higher point rooms, and I was willing to fall on my sword on this. So I decided to take out Infinity Watch and go for it here. And my main goal originally was to see how far I could get, if all that far. And I ended up taking out Luke Cage, but I did lose this, and near the end I put it on auto when it became apparent that I was going to lose, because there was just no beating this from what I could tell. It started off okay, but it ended pretty sour. And of course my Weapon X is already done for, otherwise I would have taken them in. So this attack turns out to be a fail, and just hang in there because my next attack is a cleanup. And we'll talk about that as soon as it comes along. As promised, here's the cleanup video. Now, for this one, I decided to take out my Loki Eternals team. I pulled Cloak and Dagger out of the configuration and put in both Star-Lord and Morgan Le Fay. Now, Morgan Le Fay is great here because she's got plenty of control, especially with turn meter. She's got a nice drain mechanic, so that's helpful. And Loki is here because of the turn meter advantage he gives to Mystic controllers, which in this case applies to Circe and Morgan Le Fay. So that's helpful. And then Star-Lord's here in hopes that his special will generate ability energy for Icarus after he's taken his first turn to try and crank that ultimate back up. So that's the goal with those. One other nice note is Icarus, if given the chance, usually with one tap can knock the heroes for hire at least down below 50% health, which will force them to use a round of charged, even if he doesn't get kills. So there is that opportunity here, and that's worth taking the chance on. Circe, of course, can get stuns, very helpful, so you want to manage that so that you don't end up losing characters and things like that. You want to try and stun, and if you stun the character that you're going for, then back off of them. So in that case, I would go for probably Shang-Chi or Colleen Wing. Colleen has the really annoying ultimate that will throw out the heal blocks, and of course Shang-Chi can hit you like a Mack truck. And of course Shang-Chi does take his ultimate turn, which drops my Loki and brings Star-Lord down to almost dead, and Colleen finishes him off. So there's no ability energy coming from Star-Lord, and Loki's special, which is a mind control attack from one enemy to another, is completely gone. But fortunately, Eternals and Morgan Le Fay are more than a match for what's left here in this Heroes for Hire. Alright, coming off that 2-tap finish of another Heroes for Hire, I've got a new team to face, and this one's going to be Kingpin, Deadpool, Yondu, Merc Riot Guard, and Taskmaster, and it's 589k. So I'm trying to figure out how I can manage this team and not waste a whole great team, while also trying to make sure that I get the win, because I've already got one loss on the board with that Heroes for Hire, and I don't want to deal with more losses here. So I decided to take out my Asgardian Warriors 3 and then customize it. I do end up removing Heimdall, and I put in both the Cloak and Dagger tunes as well as Zemo. I've got Hela and I've got Sif. Sif's there for taunt, Hela's there for spreading all of the debuffs, and Zemo's there to get me the turn meter advantage so that I can wipe the floor with both Cloak and Dagger. Now, one thing I really didn't pay attention to is the blinds, and so this could have been over much faster if I had just basicked my way through all of the blinds and then used my abilities after the blind was removed. But, as it turns out, I had an overpowered attack, so it really didn't matter. Alright, so next up is a 600k OG Guardians of the Galaxy, which, if Gamora does end up falling into empowered mode, that could be a problem, and she does have that ability with Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's pretty unlikely because she's super slow, and it would take a very long time for that to happen. Meanwhile, the rest of Guardians of the Galaxy is just total trash. So I decided to take out my Web Warriors, and this is a previous iteration of Web Warriors. My team is now very much beefier than this. But even in this iteration, this battle really doesn't last very long. I was using them just to make sure I got the win, and Web Warriors was not a team I was very good with at this point in time, so being a little shaky, I took it out as an insurance policy against a team that wasn't great, and used it in a position where I didn't have to worry about getting a win. So next up is a 700 plus K Inhumans/Skilletary team, and there's really not a lot of synergy here, so I don't understand what's going on. I think the thing that they were planning on is Black Widow gives speed up to a really slow team, but the two members of the Inhumans team that are removed from this are the two most valuable members outside of Black Bolt, which is Crystal and Yo-Yo. So I'm facing off on Quake and Karnak, Black Bolt, Black Widow, and Yelena. So that means that there's really not a lot of synergy, and I understand the speed up need, but I decide that basically I'm going to take out my symbiotes and let the symbiotes do what they do best. And this turns out to be the correct answer because I had enough control to keep Black Bolt from really doing a lot of damage and clean up the rest of the team relatively quickly. We're getting near the end here, and so I've got a 300 plus K Red Skull Hydra to face off on. So I take out my basic Inhumans team, with Black Bolt of course as the captain, and this punch down is laughable. The Inhumans team is the correct counter for Red Skull Hydra, which means a punch across would be auditable, and in this case the punch down is just so laughable, so huge, that quite frankly it shouldn't have taken as long as it took. But this worked out pretty easily, and it was a pretty quick win, especially when we're trying to clear out the barracks and move on to the next room, with the timer ticking down. Here we are at the penultimate match, and I've talked about this matchup many times, but I'm facing a reworked Marauders here with a large Madeline Pryor, and for an 813k team, my auto reply to this now has easily become Secret Avengers and Kestrel, and that is the correct answer as far as I'm concerned. I don't know of a better counter. Infinity Watch would work, but I've already used them, and I've got only 2 attacks left here, so if I'm gonna use Secret Avengers Kestrel, now's a great time to do it. So, of course, as I've spoken to this many times in War Wednesdays before, or Saturday specials, Kestrel completely neutralizes Mr. Sinister's summon. What isn't neutralized is Strife's really annoying taunt, Madeline's very powerful attack, and Emma's ability to control this match and put on blinds. So these are things that you're going to have to work around. The sustain of Secret Avengers plus the cleanse from Maria Hill, very helpful. Getting the defense down from Sharon onto any of the Marauders can be very tricky, especially since immunity is usually going around on this team. I always seem to find a long immunity here. So defense down, kind of a key with Kestrel so that you can get all those extra taps there when you're attacking somebody who's got defense down. For passive will attack somebody who's got defense down, usually the weakest player. So you can get a lot of work done with Kestrel, and if you can't get defense downs, it just takes a lot longer. Sharon also has a stun. If you've got nowhere to put that because of immunities, that stun is kind of pointless. You're going to have to save it until the immunities wear off. That said, I would focus down on Strife, try to get rid of him because his taunt mechanic is so consistent and so constant that it can just get in the way anyway, so get rid of him as fast as you possibly can. And then I used to focus on Sinister, but I now focus on Madeline Pryor. I usually leave Emma to the very end, and if it's Emma versus Kestrel, I've gotten into some really bad matchups where Emma's ridiculous sustain can outlast a Kestrel, even a Kestrel of my level, which is gear tier 16. So these are things to think about, but I would always save Emma to last and hope to have a team surrounding her. Of course, Captain Sam's ultimate, which adds speed, is very helpful, and Marauders is not particularly fast. So getting the extra turns is great, and also Captain Sam's special, which usually gives ability energy, very, very helpful here. For all those reasons and so many more, I think Secret Avengers and Kestrel is the correct answer on even the highest Marauders defenses. And here we are at the last matchup. I ended up picking a 383k Doc Ock Sinister 6, and I went at it with Ravagers. Now, the reason is because my Ravagers team was pretty much a punch across, and there's a significant amount of control with Ravagers, especially speed bar control from the Boomer, and health steals from the Stitcher. A couple of things to note. I intentionally played this backwards compared to the way I would usually play it. Usually, I'd focus on Doc Ock first, and try and take him out, because he's got so much sustain, and so many really, really annoying things that he does. In this case, because of the power levels, Doc Ock is huge compared to the rest of the team. So I decide, instead, to clean up the rest of the team first, and isolate Doc Ock, especially since my Ravagers, and specifically my minion summoning Yondu, should be able to actually fill the board even if I lose the rest of my supporting cast that I start with. So I'm hoping that if I clean up the rest of the team, I can take out Doc Ock last by brute force and just surrounding him with multiple minions and clean up that way. And as it turns out, that's exactly what happens. So the strategy was good, especially since it's not my typical strategy. Since Ravagers is a war offense team, they have a bunch of different things that they can do. They're very versatile on war offense. They've got a lot of teams that they can take out. And it turns out, Doc Ock Sinister 6 happens to be one of them, especially in a punch-across format. As always, thanks for watching and have a great day.